The Magic Thief, Chapter 26. On the way up the hill to the Dawn Palace, I thought about why the Duchess might want to see me. Did she think I could help deal with the decay of magic? I wanted to help, but as Nevery would be the first to point out, I had no abilities beyond opening gates, making light, and turning myself into a cat, which I wasn't even sure I could do yet, though I wanted to try it. The next thought turned my stomach cold as I walked through the front gate before the Dawn Palace, my feet crunching through crusted snow. The Duchess disliked Nevery enough to banish him from the city for 20 years. Was she after Nevery then? Did she think I would tell her something about Nevery's work? I shook my head and paid attention to where I was going. When I'd been here before, it had been night, and snow had been sifting down from a sky made pink and soft by flickering whirlights. Now, the snow-covered drive leading up to the front steps of the Dawn Palace had been trodden into a slippery, icy path. I slithered up the front steps, which had been shoveled and sanded, to the double front doors, where two green-coated, leather-booted guards stood with pikes. "That him?" one of the guards asked. The door handle turned easily, but before I could push the door open and go in, a heavy hand came down on my shoulder. "Here, you," said a guard. I looked up. Tall and bearded, but not one of the guards from the cells below the Dawn Palace. "I'm supposed to see the Duchess," I said. "I'll take him," the guard with the grip on me said to the other. He opened the door and pushed me inside. "Come quietly." He pulled me along by my arm through the main hall, turning left into a carpeted hallway, then into another stark stone hallway, one I recognized. He wasn't taking me to the Duchess. I tried to squirm out of his hands. "Keep still," the guard said, tightening his grip. "Captain wants to talk to you." I didn't want to talk to her. Sure as sure I didn't. The guard pulled me down the hallway to a door banded with metal. He opened the door and pushed me inside. Captain Kern was there, sitting at a table in what looked like a guard's common room. Swords and pikes stood in racks against the walls, and a long table with benches ran the length of the room. Other guards, including the bristle-bearded Farn, sat around the table, some playing cards, others cleaning weapons or oiling their boots. They all looked up as we came in. When they saw it was me, they all scowled except for Farn, who stood up and went to stand blocking a door in the opposite wall. Kern set down a dagger and a whetstone. I glanced around the room. The only other way out was through the door we'd come in, and the guard behind me would grab me if I tried to get out that way. Kern got up from her bench, and her ice-chip eyes narrowed as she looked me up and down. "The Duchess is expecting you, so we will keep this short," Kern said in her funny-sounding voice with its shs and gargled r's. "I have heard a report on you since yesterday. You may have fooled the Duchess and those wizards, but I know what you are. You come from the Twilight, and you are a well-known pickpocket and thief." "I used to be," I said, edging away from her, "but I'm not anymore." "You made us look bad," Kern said, "sneaking into the palace, stealing the Duchess's jewel." "You made yourselves look bad, not catching me," I said. Kern came around the table, moving fast. I backed toward the door, but before I got there, Kern grabbed me by the front of my coat and bent down to snarl into my face. "Listen well, thief. Every guard in the city knows what you are and what you have done." She gave me a shake that made my teeth rattle. "You put one foot wrong and we will have you." She released me and I staggered back, bumping into the guard who had brought me in. All the guards in the room gave me their best menacing looks. I got the message. Captain Kern turned away. "Take him out of here." The door guard grabbed the back of my coat and hustled me out the door. We quick walked through the hallways, up the stairs, to the carpeted hallway with the double doors at the end. My guard knocked at a door, then opened it. Inside, the Duchess was sitting behind her desk with a pile of papers before her. As the guard shoved me in, she looked up, removed a pair of spectacles, and raised her eyebrows. The guard bowed and kept hold of the scruff of my neck. The Duchess rose from behind the desk. "It's all right, guardsman," she motioned toward the door. "You may go." "But your grace," the guard protested. "Captain Kern ordered me to watch him until he leaves." "Really, guardsman, go. Call for my advisors to join me shortly." "Yes, your grace," the guard said, and, with another stiff bow, left the room. The Duchess sat down again. "Now then, con, is it?" I nodded. I wondered what she thought of me. A thief, as Kern thought? A wizard, as I'd shown her the day before? She gestured gracefully toward a chair, a comfortable one, before her desk. Won't you sit down?" I took off my coat and sat down. She spent a minute examining me, and I returned the favor. I'd really only seen her a few times before, and then I'd been distracted by the call of my locus magicalicus. I could see her resemblance to Rowan. She was tall and slender and had a pale, thin, beautiful face, with lines around the eyes and bracketing her mouth. Her red and gray hair was braided and pinned into a crown atop her head. She wore a dark green dress with a green velvet collar, and her family crest, tree and leaf, embroidered on each sleeve. Her long fingers were stained with ink, and she wore her spectacles on a gold chain around her neck. Finished looking me over, she leaned back in her chair. "Have you my jewel with you?" she asked. I nodded. She looked down her nose at me. "I see that Nevery has not claimed you." What was she talking about? "You do not wear the winged hourglass, his family crest," she said. "I'm Nevery's, if that's what you're asking," I said. "I would not be certain of that if I were you," she said sharply. "You'd be wise to be careful. Nevery is dangerous and is not to be trusted by anyone." I wondered what she'd do if I told her Nevery had said the same thing about her. "Do you know the history of the city, Con? Does your education go so far?" "I have hardly any education at all," I said. 20 years ago, in a magical pyrotechnic experiment, Nevery blew up parts of Heart's Ease and the Dawn Palace. Did you know that?" I shook my head. I wanted to hear more, but the Duchess said, "Ask your master about it." She leaned back and pulled a tasseled rope set into the wall. "Now, you look as if you might like some tea." I nodded. A moment later, the door behind me opened and a servant entered. "Tea, with biscuits," the Duchess said. The door closed. Her eyes narrowed just a bit. It might have been a smile. "I hear you like biscuits." "I do," I said, and I was hungry. Maybe she wasn't so bad. She was Rowan's mother, after all. She leaned her elbows on the desk and rested her chin on her hand. "You interest me, Con. My daughter claims you as a friend, and she does not make friends easily." The door opened again, and the servant entered on soft feet, bearing a tray of silver tea things and a plate piled high with fluffy biscuits, lightly toasted and dripping with butter. The servant put the tray on the Duchess's desk, bowed, and silently left the room. The Duchess went on talking while she poured a cup of tea and leaned across the desk to hand it to me. "I wonder, Con, about the significance of the fact that the center jewel from the ducal regalia has turned out to be a locus magicalicus." From a little pitcher on the table, she added a few drops of milk to her tea. "You agree that it is significant?" I nodded and swallowed down a bite of buttered biscuit. I could guess what she was going to say next. "And you wonder why me?" She looked at me over the rim of her cup, her face softened by steam rising from the hot tea. "Indeed. Why did the finest stone in the ducal regalia come to you?" "I don't know," I said, and I didn't. I had to think about it some more. I took a quick drink of my tea, and I reminded myself to be careful. As Nevery had warned, the Duchess was like a puzzle lock. She seemed kind, giving me tea and biscuits, but it didn't mean she was actually kind. The Duchess set down her teacup. "Well, I think the fact that your locus magicalicus came from my regalia is an indication that my family must reconcile itself to magic. Were you aware, Con, that years ago it was common for the ruling house of Welmet to have a court magister, a wizard who was given chambers here in the Dawn Palace? Such a wizard would need to have a strong connection with the ducal house." What was she saying exactly? "I know your master very well," she went on. "Nevery certainly never wanted to take you on as an apprentice. He would be happy to be relieved of your care. I think you would be wise to leave Nevery's damp and drafty old mansion and come live here, in the Dawn Palace." Where she could keep an eye on me, she meant. And even though she was mostly right about Nevery, sure as sure he hadn't wanted me as an apprentice, I wasn't leaving Heart's Ease. I shook my head. "Very well," she said. I eyed the plate of biscuits. Better not have another one. I needed to ask her the right questions. "Duchess," I said. Was that right, Duchess? Or was I supposed to call her something else? She raised her eyebrows, waiting. "What do you think is happening to the magic in Welmet?" I asked. She didn't even blink at the change of subject. "I am told by my advisor that it is a natural ebbing. The problem will eventually reverse itself. I have been assured that the city is not in any danger." That didn't make sense. My locust stone was rare and strange, and its showing up when it had made it clear that something big was happening. But you can see that the magic is leaving us, can't you? I said. Without it, the city will die. I hadn't thought about it that way before, but as I said it out loud, I realized that it was true. If the magic died, then Wilmette would die. Soon. She gave me a level look. I am sure you are just repeating Nevery's alarmist ideas. No, I said, getting frustrated. Nevery agrees with you. He doesn't think the city is in danger, but you're both wrong. Really? She shook her head. And what exactly do you think is happening? I don't know. The Duchess looked past me at the door to her office, repeated. I see that you do not. Perhaps my liaison to the magisters can share with you his thoughts on the matter. Oh no! I turned in my chair and, sure enough, Pedavox himself stood in the doorway, tall and broad, his locus magicalicus a thumbnail-shaped gleam of white against his black waistcoat. He strode into the room. I grabbed my coat and felt in the pocket for my locust stone, but I didn't take it out. Well, Magister, the Duchess said. Pedavox bowed. Your Grace. Without looking at me, he went on. What is Nevery's failed apprentice doing here? Going away, I said, scrambling to my feet. I looked at the Duchess. Is Pedavox the one who's been telling you not to worry? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I already knew the answer to that question. As Pedavox turned his glare on me, I edged around him and skipped out the door. Avoiding the guards, I found my way out of the Dawn Palace to the whirlit streets of the sunrise. Time to go home to Heart's Ease. But drats! The Duchess would surely tell Pedavox about my locus magicalicus, and Pedavox would tell Crow, and Nevery was not going to be happy with me. From Nevery's Journal. Headed home from Magister's Hall, gates through tunnel still on their hinges, assumed boy hadn't yet returned from meeting with the Duchess. At Heartsease, went up to kitchen. No sign of Bennett. Went up to workroom. Heard sound of banging from upstairs. Attic, where boy has made his lair. Climbed crumbling ladder. Bennett there had set a lantern on the floor and by its light was making some kind of frame out of wood. A window frame. He had glass and putty set aside and a few nails. He nodded as I came up. Been meaning to get to this, master, he said. Attic room freezing. Good man, Bennett, thinking of putting glass in the windows. Looked around at boy's room. Nest of holey blankets against the wall. Pile of books beside it, stacked neatly. Saucer with stub of candle in it. Painting of dragon propped against wall. Arranged on the floor a collection of junk. Burnt scrying globe, box of rusted gears, stuffed alligator. Examined hearth, peered up chimney, which was blocked with sticks and bird droppings. Something had built its nest in there. Where is he? Bennett asked. With the hammer, he tapped a nail into the corner of the window frame. The Duchess sent for him, I said. Bennett didn't comment. Went down to study, stirred up fire, read. Secretary had tabulated notes as ordered. Did a decent job of it. Boy came in at last, looking chilled, tired. Went to the fire to warm himself. Well, boy, I asked, setting aside the papers I was reading. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. You are right, Nevery. She's tricky. What did she say? I asked. Boy gave quick grin. She said you're dangerous and not to be trusted. Curse the woman anyway. What did she want with you? I asked. Boy silent again for a few minutes. He sat cross-legged on the hearthstone. The cat came in and climbed into his lap, purring. Pedavox was there, he said. He's been advising her about the magical decay. Not Pedavox again. Listen, boy, I said. Pedavox is the Duchess's advisor on magical issues. It is his job to keep her informed about the magical decay. Now, what did the Duchess want with you? Boy yawned and rubbed his eyes. She had one question. Why did her jewel come to me? Ah, typical of the Duchess to get straight to this salient point. And what did you answer? I asked. That I don't know. Expect he doesn't. But if I know boy, it's not for lack of thinking about it. Anything else? I asked. Not really, boy said. Well, boy, I said. He shook his head.